Chapter 3. I'm under constant surveillance. When did my self surveillance begin? I dug through my emails and came across something I wrote 10 years ago. They say that when we get too hurt, we try to forget our wounds instead of healing them. And this must be what happened to me as well. Because I couldn't remember what I was describing in the email at all. I've suffered from eczema since birth. At times, it wasn't as common as now, which made the doctor dismiss it as a passing irritation, and it was only much later in life that I received a proper diagnosis. The folds of skin along my arms and legs in the area around my eyes would often be red from dry lesions. My classmates from time to time would tease, "What's wrong with your skin? It's disgusting." And a boy I liked even compared me to his grandmother right to my face. Around the fifth grade, there was some kind of gym activity that involved boy girl dancing. My partner seemed to hate the thought of touching me, and he refused to hold my hand, going through the motions while avoiding my contact. That's when I really started to feel shameful about myself. I was disgusting, ugly, like an old lady, a freak who should be hidden away from sight. In middle school, my friends and I were members of an online community, and the anonymous discussion board was once plastered with insults against me. I can't quite bear to recall each and every one of them, but there was comments like, "Her face doesn't look it, but her body is quite fat. You should wash more often. Your elbows are blackened and disgusting." That kind of thing. It cut me to the bone, and I was being judged for my appearance like that. That period disappeared from my conscious mind. But given that I have a habit of scrubbing my elbows every night and checking in the mirror countless times during the day to see if I have anything on my face, the memories must linger subconsciously. I'm always worried about how I look to others. This self consciousness has brought me to the point of recording my voice to hear what I sound like. Nothing frightens me more than the thought of someone mocking me while I suffer pain. Psychiatrist. How's your movie club? Me. It went well. Psychiatrist. Did you have a lot to talk about? Me. Not really. When I said I didn't like the movie, the discussion moderator asked me what it was that I didn't like about it. And I just said I couldn't put it into words at the moment. Then I listened to what others were saying about why they didn't like it, and that helped me articulate it. When I listened to the recording of myself later, I realized I did end up speaking a lot during the meeting. Psychiatrist. Why did you record yourself? Me. In the office, I record all my important meetings and I record our sessions as well, so I can listen to them later. I'm usually so tense during these instructions that I have trouble remembering what was said. Psychiatrist. Do you really need to record yourself all the time? Me. Well, the purpose of recording our sessions is to have my own record of what happened. And in other cases, I kept failing to remember the things that were said in conversation because I was so nervous in the moment. Psychiatrist. It's as if you're keeping yourself under CCTV surveillance to evaluate your own behavior after every interaction. Did I do well that time? What did we talk about? Forgiveness can be liberating. It must be exhausting doing what you do. Me. It makes me feel reassured and ashamed at the same time. Reassured if it turns out I spoke well, ashamed if I didn't. Psychiatrist. I think you should start allowing yourself to forget and let go of things that have already happened. Me. All right, I suppose this also make me look like a robot. Psychiatrist. Like a robot? Me, yes. Psychiatrist. I didn't really mean anything significant in our previous session when I made my comment about you being like a robot. but I think you're putting a lot of meaning into it. Me. The doctor is right. I had kept thinking about the comment afterwards. You're right. I keep thinking about what people say about me over and over again. I wonder why I keep up this self surveillance. Psychiatrist. You put a lot of stock in what other people think. It's because your satisfaction with yourself is so low. But your life is your life, your body is your body, and you have the responsibility over it. Right now, you don't process the input that comes to you through a mechanism of rationality or mediation. You go straight to the extreme. Self surveillance isn't necessarily a bad thing, but there's so much you can do with the input, such as rationalizing or finding a different way to think about things. But you only do one thing with it. There can be so many reasons for something, but you're so focused on the result of it that you don't see the reasons. You keep focusing on, I'm sad, I want to cry, I'm angry, which only amplifies these emotions. Me crying. Was I born this way? So prone to self consciousness, to emotional extremes? Psychiatrist. Personality has a lot to do with nature, but nature plays an equally important role. Me. When I talk to my sisters, we're all the same, which is why we can't talk about our partners together. We're all so extreme that we never come to rational conclusions. It makes me wonder, were we like this from birth, or did something happen to us? Psychiatrist. Perhaps your perception of reality is so polarized and extreme that you're only able to see your sisters within a frame of everything about us is the same or everything about us is different. Me. You mean it's a matter of my perception and has nothing to do with reality itself? Psychiatrist. Exactly. Me. Am I really that extreme? Psychiatrist. It's not that you're that extreme, you simply have a certain tendency. First of all, I think you need to specially separate yourself, your work, and your rest. If you are stressed at work, you ought to be relaxing when you're home. But you're sitting at home listening to a recording of yourself. This mixes up two spaces, which makes you feel near constant shame and anxiety. Me. I see. Nothing really happened this week, but I couldn't fall asleep properly at night. I'd wake up at 4 in the morning and I wouldn't be able to get back to sleep. So I'd put on a movie. It was frustrating how little sleep I was getting. Psychiatrist. You must have been very tired during the day. Me. I felt better than I expected. For example, when people call my name, I tend to blush, but I didn't blush at all this week. Psychiatrist. How many hours did you sleep? Me. About 4 or 5 hours a night, usually a 5 hour stretch and then in blocks of 10 or 20 minutes. It takes about 40 minutes from my office to my apartment. It's a country road full of rice paddies, and my mind feels so much clearer when I'm walking it. Being at home alone makes me feel depressed again. I thought about why, and I realized it was because I would look at Instagram posts of people I'm envious of. I think that makes me more depressed. Psychiatrist. What are they like? The people you envy? Me. One of them is a head editor at a company I wanted to join. I once tried to transfer there but messed up the interview. She's beautiful and she dresses well, and her employees look nice too. I'm so envious of her. It makes me wonder what's wrong with me that I can't be like that. Psychiatrist. How satisfied are you with the work you're doing now? Me. I am very satisfied, but I'm also a little bored with it. Psychiatrist. Feelings of envy are very common. It only means you have ideals, but envy coupled with constant comparisons with oneself, is something distinct. I think you're only idealizing her a little. It doesn't seem that serious. Me. What would qualify as serious? Psychiatrist. It has to manifest in your behavior. But as long as you can think to yourself, I'm all right, you're fine. There's no need to be too negative about envying others. It could be motivation for you to better yourself. Me. You're right. I really respect my boss at work. When that respect is healthy, I think she's so wonderful. I'm going to follow her example. But some days I'll think, why didn't I think of that? And that depresses me. Psychiatrist. We all go through periods like that. We despair and often gain new tools, and we overcome that despair. And when you're depressed, your perspective changes, and the same situation is interpreted differently. Me. So my mood is important? Psychiatrist. Your mood is extremely important. It determines how you interpret the random events of your life. Me. I'm not sure if I can change my mood for the better. Psychiatrist. Not for the better necessarily, but perhaps not to be so extreme. I think that's what you should focus on. Me. But I can't. I don't think it's possible for me. Psychiatrist. See, you're already saying you can't, when I'm sure you can. Look at how well you did this week, the week before, and you said you didn't do so well. Me. You're right. And there was one more incident. There was an article about the movie club put up in our Facebook group. It had like a lot of likes. So I clicked the link and I was surprised that everyone seemed to have gone to good schools. The president of the club went to a top university, and he must have hired a lot of his uni friends when he started his company because everyone there had gone to good schools. Learning this intimidated me and made me want to quit the movie club. I tried to avoid the topic of universities. I keep feeling both superior and inferior at the same time. For example, I might be in conversation with someone and getting on well, but if I happen to learn that that person went to Seoul National University, I immediately think, did everything I just said now sound stupid to him? Psychiatrist. But you went to uni. What if you were in conversation with someone who, but for whatever reason, did not go to uni? And that person said something like, but you went to the university. What would you think then? Me. I would think, what has that got to do with anything? Psychiatrist. Exactly. Go to the university on the merit of your high school grades, but depending on what you became interested in after that, the depth and breadth of your thoughts vary tremendously. Your high school grades do not determine the rest of your life. Me, absolutely. Psychiatrist. When you feel like someone seems superior to you, you should try applying those standards to someone with different circumstances. For example, let's say you're watching television and there's someone being interviewed who hadn't been able to finish high school because of poverty, but managed instead to get their diploma through hard work later in life. By the standards you're applying to the other superior person, the interviewee's qualification should be devalued. But do you really feel that they should be? Me. No, of course not. Psychiatrist. There you go. You tend to apply those standards when you're at a disadvantage, not when you're at an advantage. Now, obviously, societal class structures exist, and graduates of prestigious universities do have an edge. But at this point in your life, transferring to a different company isn't about your grades, it's about your work experience. Me. I should really try to think that way. Psychiatrist. You should try to stop yourself from reflexivity, falling back on thinking patterns you normally default to. Me. I think I have to change a lot. I had a huge inferiority complex when it came to universities, which was why I transferred schools. At first, I was ecstatic. But your university name is just an external title. Despite getting everything I'd ever wanted, my depression continued. Psychiatrist. It's a question of whether everything you ever wanted was ever what you really wanted in the first place. Me. I honestly don't know. Psychiatrist. For example, you might have mistaken taking the train with your destination, losing sight of your actual destination. The whole time you were caught up in societal prejudices and norms. Me. But I'm happy to have studied creative writing. Psychiatrist. That's exactly it. What matters isn't what people say, but what you like and find joy in. I hope you focus less on how you look to other people and more on fulfilling your true desires. Me. I've mentioned it just now, but I really don't know how to tell the difference between what I really want and what others want for me. Psychiatrist. You know how sometimes you have an inkling of something, even while you're saying you have no idea? That's joy you felt when you studied creative writing and your satisfaction with your current work. I think those are your most honest feelings. Me. Feelings that I feel immediately? Psychiatrist. Yes, like pleasure. Me. If I feel things other than pleasure, should I not do them? Psychiatrist. Well, sometimes you need to do things you don't want to do for different reasons. Me. Movie club will end soon. Another club will be starting up. But I'm not sure if I want to join or not. Psychiatrist. Why don't you write down the pros and cons of the club? You might find an answer there. It's just a hobby after all. You must not let your hobby become stressful. But I hope if you don't do it, isn't out of fear. Me. I have a scenario. I have a serious victim complex. Even in this club, I kept thinking people hated me. Psychiatrist. Can you give an example? Me. We went to a bar after the club. I didn't want to get drunk, and I managed to stay sober at first, but then I ended up getting drunk. It was near the end, and I can't quite remember what happened, but I noticed the president and the moderator signaling to each other that someone should put me in a cab. I became so ashamed of this faint memory, and I got the feeling they hated me. Psychiatrist. Maybe they were simply concerned for you? Me. What? Psychiatrist. Well, when one has a friend who's very drunk, one calls a cab for the friend so they can go home safely. Me. Oh, you're right. Why didn't I think of that? They were concerned, as I would have been concerned for a drunk friend too. Psychiatrist. Usually, before a dream becomes reality, we tend to think we'll wish for nothing else if only the dream is realized. Imagine how you'd feel if you always remember that your dream has already been fulfilled. Everything that comes after would be like a lovely bonus. When you feel envious of something, try to imagine how you would look to your 20-year-old self. Wouldn't she think something like, wow, look at me, I graduated college and I'm working at a publishing house? Me suddenly burst into tears. I would have been overjoyed. Psychiatrist. To the point of thinking, I want to go up to that person and ask her how she did it. But the you of the present is looking at your life and past as if you're a failure, when in truth, from the perspective of a younger you, you're the very picture of success. Me. Sometimes I think 35-year-old me would feel so sad about the 28-year-old me. And if I were to meet myself as a 20-year-old, I would tell her something like, you don't have to worry so much. But all that's easier said than done. Psychiatrist. What I'm saying is, don't compare yourself to other people. Compare yourself to your past self, me. What about my victim complex? Psychiatrist, we have to keep thinking through it because there are parts of it that have to do with your personality. You've lived with anxiety for a long time. Once your new experience start overwriting your old ones, your view of yourself and others may become far brighter than it is now. 21-year-old to the me of now. What matters isn't what people say, but what you like and find joy in. I hope you focus less on how you look to other people and more on fulfilling your true desires. I've always looked at the past from the future's perspective. How would 28-year-old me look to the 35-year-old me? Or a 20-year-old me to 28-year-old me? Now, I want to go to my past me and tell them, you don't have to try so hard. Back when I had nothing, no future or college or money, when I was doing menial jobs right up to my university transfer exams, like cleaning up after students in rented study carrels or working the counter at fitness clubs from 6 in the morning when my face looked like a bleak black and white film still in the mirror. Could that girl have imagined she would be come to me one day? That she would graduate college, work at a dream publishing house, doing something she loved. How happy that would have made her. I have worked so hard to get here, and now I make a living doing what I enjoy. I have no anxieties about whether this is the right path for me. All I want is to get better at it. That's enough for me. Why did I torture myself by comparing myself to someone else? If 20-year-old me met me today, she would cry with joy. And that's enough for me.